Thank you so much, Bob. We're honored at presence to be housed in the Department of Medicine. That's our home, and to get unflinching support from Bob. So thank you so much for that. We have a special treat this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll hear more from me a little bit later. I'm Abraham Verghese, co-chair for today's conference. But I'm really delighted to see so many of you here, and you'll hear more about the conference. But right now, we have a very special moment for us. When I came to Stanford 10 years ago, John Hennessy was president of Stanford University. He stepped down in 2016 after serving for 16 years. And prior to that, he'd been provost, and prior to that, he'd been dean of the School of Engineering. And a couple of weeks ago, when I learned that he'd been awarded the Turing Award that is spoken of as the Nobel Prize of Computer Science, with its $1 million prize, I wrote to John to say that I and so many of us on the faculty have had treasured notes from you for minor achievements over the years. And I wrote that I'm so happy to have a chance to write to you and congratulate you on an achievement that eclipses anything that we might have done or will do. I also conspired with John's good friend and my good friend, Dr. Charles Prober, who's also the man, by the way, who taught me how to tie a bow tie. So we'll be offering lessons at lunchtime. I conspired with Charles to see if we could convince John to allow us to honor him in our small way and to say congratulations in person. And it's really quite fitting for this conference because he had such a profound impact on this field. And the Turing Award was given to John Hennessy and David Patterson for creating systematic and quantitative approaches to designing faster, lower power, and reduced complexity microprocessors. They created a set of principles that architects have been using all over the world, and the impact's stunning. Many tens of billions of processors use this architecture, in particular the ARM processor, which powers nearly all your smartphones, was significantly influenced by this work. Bill Gates said that their contributions have proven to be fundamental to the very foundation upon which an entire industry flourished. John is presently the director of the Knight Hennessy Scholars Program at Stanford. It's the largest fully endowed scholars program in the world. You can compare it to the Rhodes Scholarship, but I think it's going to very easily eclipse that one day. The first batch of graduate students have been admitted, and they will no doubt be the next generation of global leaders. Dr. Hennessy is also chairman of the board of Alphabet, Inc. John, it's so hard to come up with a gift for you, but we know that you're a voracious reader, at least I know that. And so we very carefully curated a collection of books that we hope you'll enjoy on your trip that you're about to take. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Hennessy, the 2017 winner of the Turing Award.
Thank you, Abraham. Thank you, Abraham. You know, I had the good fortune to come to the Valley and come to Stanford at a time when computer science was a young field. I tell the undergraduates, when I was their age, you couldn't major in computer science anywhere in the United States. It's now at Stanford not only the largest major, it's actually in the past year become the largest major for women, which I think will be really important to the discipline over time as technology continues to change how we do so many things. You know, it's an interesting question comes up. We did this work 30 some odd years ago. We wrote the first edition of our book 28 years ago. 28? Yeah, 28 years ago. Why have things changed so dramatically? Well, they've changed because technology is a big arc. Sometimes things get invented and they really come of age at a later time. And what made our work come of age was the fact that you carry multiple computers in your pocket, that as you walk around your house, everything from your microwave to your alarm system to your fire control system to everything contains a computer. So you had to make computers very inexpensive, and you had to pay attention to energy consumption. And that completely changed the set of trade-offs. Sometimes these things take time, and perhaps no revolution has taken longer than the AI revolution. We haven't been through one AI winter. There have been these periods of AI winter where AI is going to solve all the problems. And remember, if you go back to the predictions that were made in the 60s, people were predicting that machines would pass the Turing test within 10 years, that they would beat humans at all kinds of tasks. And here we are, 50 years later, and they're just beginning to get better than people at some very complex tasks. But I think there are a couple important things to remember. First of all, supervised learning, which has become the vogue for all kinds of tasks, but particularly complex diagnostic tasks, looking at pictures of a lesion and deciding if it's cancerous, looking at an EKG and interpreting it. Remember one thing. Supervised learning is the ultimate example of garbage in, garbage out. When we teach young people to program, the first thing we tell them is garbage in, garbage out. You write junky code, the answer you get out will bear no relevance to the real answer. Well, supervised learning is the ultimate garbage in, garbage out. If you really want to see this, go look at the Google program which identifies breeds of cats and dogs. Actually outperforms the vast majority of people unless you're AKC breeder qualified. However, ask the program a question that your 5-year-old child could answer. Why is that a cat and why is that a dog? And it cannot answer that very simple question. The question of general AI as opposed to what we call applied AI is one that it remains in its infancy. And while we use these techniques that are really statistical, that are extracting information from lots of examples, they don't necessarily have insights. You know, cats have whiskers, dogs generally don't. Cats are more furry than dogs. Cats are smaller than dogs. Cats have tails that often curl more than dogs. 5-year-olds can tell the difference. But here a program that can classify breeds can't tell you why that's a dog and why that's a cat. Now, the debate about how far we are from general AI is one that is raging currently, with the most optimistic people predicting 10 years and a slew of people in the 20 to 40-year range. I think it remains quite an open question how we do that. And AI has shifted. The early work, much of the early work that Josh Lutterberg and Ed Feigenbaum did here on basically knowledge-based systems where we encode knowledge, we encode insights, and we derive things from that. What's happened recently is all the focus is on machine learning techniques. They're not smart. There's no built-in intelligence. Why did machine learning come of age now, you might ask? The answer is very simple. We needed 100,000 to 1 million times more data points than we thought we needed. We couldn't generalize. We couldn't extract information when we only had 1,000 or 5,000 samples. We needed 100,000 or 1 million samples. And we needed computers which were 10,000 times faster than we thought we'd need, because in order to do that learning process, we needed dramatically faster machines. Now we see lots of accelerated pace, people experimenting with so-called reinforcement learning. I'm not sure how reinforcement learning transfers into the medical domain, because it's one thing to take two programs playing chess and have them learn from one another by reinforcement learning. What happens when one program loses? Well, it loses a game of chess. It's another thing to take two patients and experiment with them on a reinforcement learning-based system, certainly without informed consent. But that'll be an interesting question. So I think there's a particularly important role that the medical field has to play as we push this technology forward, because you're the curators, you are the source of ground knowledge. And without ground knowledge, without solid data, whether it come from patient records that are accurate and express the real situation, or it comes from physician records, without that ground source, without ground truth, supervised learning is garbage. So we're going to have to get that ground truth. I think there's another vital role, which I'm sure Abraham will talk some more about, which is I love computers. I fell in love with them when I was in high school initially, and I love programming and I love thinking about them. The last thing I want to do is sit down in front of a computer and have it tell me that I've got something really seriously wrong with me. I want to talk to a person at that point. So there'll be a vital role even as we push the technology more and more. So while I think AI will be one big transformation, I think it's only one. We're going to be able to build devices which can be implanted, which will last essentially forever. The breakthroughs that are occurring in ultra-low power design, in energy harvesting approaches, are going to give us the ability to build very small things where batteries last not just a year or two, but 5 or 10 or 20 years. And if we can build really complex sensors and embed them in the body without rejection, not necessarily an easy problem, we can do things that we simply couldn't do before, monitor patients in new ways. And that'll be a dramatic change in that technology. I think the other thing that's going to be really important is to remember that in the end, AI is a tool. It's not a replacement for human beings. It's an amplifier of human intelligence. It's an informer of human intelligence. If we confuse artificial intelligence for real human intelligence, that'll be mistake one down a road that I think as human beings we don't want to go. We're going to have to figure out how to use that technology in a way that amplifies the ability. And perhaps nowhere is that more important, I think, than in medicine. So good luck on this mission. I hope you do great things and save many lives and make patients' lives better while remembering that they still want to interact with real people. Thank you.
The preceding program is copyrighted by the Board of Trustees of the Leland Stanford Junior University. Please visit us at med.stanford.edu.